This is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast, hosted by Roman Prokopchuk, bringing you all things digital marketing, tech, business, and motivation. What's stopping you from becoming relentless in all aspects of life? Are you ready to become a digital savage? Let's get into today's episode.
Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast. Today I have with me Kelsey Bratcher. He is the co-founder of Automatic Practice Profits, a stem cell marketing agency, as well as the host of the Get Automated podcast. He has been creating and implementing automation for small businesses since 2008 and loves to talk tools, systems, and process. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, Roman. I appreciate you having me on.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to the 2019 you?
Well, I've always been fascinated with like technology, computers, even as a young child. And started off doing like making bots to play games, to cheat and do that kind of thing. And it really piqued my interest in the concepts of automation. I had worked in a call center environment for quite a few years prior to working at a company called Infusionsoft back in 2008, which gave me a good idea in terms of how like systems and processes and automation can be used kind of like at scale. I had worked in the behind the scenes of the call center, analyzing data and doing kind of like call flow design, I guess would be the way to say it, when you're doing like tech support. Like, how do you figure out the fastest way to get somebody off the phone, in the fewest number of steps, that kind of thing. And so from there, I worked at Infusionsoft implementing CRM and marketing automation software for small business. I left in 2013 to start a company called Hired Gun Solutions, which was like a freelance. Basically, it was the same stuff that I was doing at Infusionsoft, just freelance. And so the idea was to work less and make more. It's always a joke. You never work less when you start a business. And that led me to meet my business partner, who has a stem cell clinic in the Palm Desert or Palm Springs. And now we have a stem cell marketing agency using a strategy that we developed for getting new patients for him. We now resell to other stem cell clinics.
No, that's awesome. And are there any other specific industries that you work with?
Well, right now it's in that particular business. So in my consulting freelance business, I pretty much work with anybody that's a small business that's using the technology that's appropriate for there. But for the stem cell agency, it's pretty much all stem cells. Chiropractic is like an extension of that. Like, a lot of the stem cell clinics are actually owned by chiropractors that happen to partner with MDs. And so that's kind of the industry that we're serving at the moment. But the strategy that we teach is holding like free lead generation seminars. So it's really popular in financial advisors. Estate planning attorneys will often do this. Real estate investors will do this. And it's basically you come to this event to learn about the topic. And so you market the seminar for the person to get the leads there. And then they do a presentation and a pitch, right? And so we currently don't work with other industries, but we're looking for partnerships to do that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I see a lot of industry specific things, like you said, the seminars, or to get the more information. In terms of real estate, it works well, and other industries similar to it. So in terms of yourself, what motivates you to succeed in terms of being a business owner and an entrepreneur?
Well, for me, like the number one thing that I hated about being an employee was having to take shit from a boss or from people that are not, they don't directly benefit from the work that you perform, right? In my opinion. So like, if you help a small business owner grow their business, they're going to feel the impact of it. Their employees are going to feel the impact. The family and the community around them is going to feel the impact. And so it's a lot more rewarding for me to do that. But my primary motivators are my family and having the ability to not take shit from people.
Yeah, I think the type of clients and the size of the companies you work with lead to, how appreciative they are. So working with, let's say, Fortune 500s that have hundreds of thousands of employees, the people you deal with may not be as appreciative, and they don't necessarily affect their personal bottom lines. But when you're working with small businesses and people with businesses in the community, it's a lot more tangible.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've done projects with larger companies. The problem is that when you start the project, the employee that you're working with may quit, may get fired, may get promoted. And now by the end of the project, it's a completely different thing. The parameters often change and elongate. There's lots of problems that come with that I don't like dealing with. And so it's part of the reason why I've chosen to stick in the small business space, working directly with business owners.
Yeah, I think in a corporate structure, there's a lot of politics involved. And like you said, when somebody leaves, a lot of the times the vendors or the agencies or whoever the business relationship is, a person brought them in. So if that person leaves, the new person that comes in to replace them has their own, favored, colleagues, people they know to bring in and do that other than the agency or company that's already in place.
Yeah, you got to fight for everything. You have to basically resell yourself again and recreate the value or whatever that exchange might be. It's just not worth dealing with, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. So what's one thing in terms of when you started your own company or left working for somebody else to work for yourself, you found as, a big hurdle?
For me, executing the E-Myth describes the technician, the manager, the entrepreneur paradox, I guess would be the way to say it. I've always been a technician. So understanding, I guess technician and / entrepreneur more than I am a manager. I don't have any formal experience leading at a company. I've never been in a management position. I've always been in a highly specialized technical roles. So for me, understanding how to take the stuff that I just do inherently, break it down into smaller processes, and then be able to delegate and manage those things through other people, whether those are VAs, employees, my business partner, for example, or my business partners, sorry. And that was something that took a lot of work to get my head wrapped around of how to navigate that type of structure, if that makes sense. When I started, I had no idea that I could do it. Would do everything myself. When I started my business, I created my own damn logo, and it sucked so bad, and I wasted 10 hours on it, right? When it would have been way better if I would have just paid a guy $500 or $600 to just get it done, have something that's awesome, maybe have to tweak it just a little bit, but it's ready to go. And it took me a lot to be able to let go of one, knowing how to do all these things, but at the same time, is it worth my time? Is my time better spent doing other things or more high value tasks? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the time is the most important, obviously, commodity. And I think as long as you know how to do something, make sure you're not necessarily getting screwed over from a business sense, and something that you can outsource. So that 10 hours was probably worth more to you than those $500-$600. So I think it's important to kind of give and take and make those decisions, what you can delegate out and what you can focus on that are kind of core responsibilities or things that, your business needs to grow. Right.
Well, it's the example I like to use to explain kind of the differential between how you value your time, especially to folks that are maybe struggling with the concept. So I've had, up until recently, I used to have my water delivered to my house through a service called Sparklets. And the idea is you pay them they come to your house, they drop off the water. You have, basically 25 to 50 gallons of water on hand at any given time. And it costs way more than it would be if you were to take the time to load your car up with the jugs and go to the water station and fill them all up and then load them back in your car and go, you know what I mean? It takes an hour a week, maybe an hour every 2 weeks, depending on how you do it and how much water you use. But that's an hour, and that work sucks. I don't always do it proactively, you know what I mean? So the structure, the value that they're providing me is now I don't have to do that anymore, and I always have water, right? So it's worth the, $50 to $100 a month or whatever that you would spend on that. Even though you could probably go do it yourself and save $70. But like, what is an hour of your time worth? I like to think my time's worth way more than $70 an hour. And so it makes it really easy to justify, something like that.
No, I agree. I think if people that start businesses, it's oftentimes hard to kind of let go, and especially if they're bootstrapping it and trying to save as much as possible and reinvest back in the business. So they try to overwhelm themselves and do everything and wear every hat.
Mm-hmm. Another area that I ran into trouble is bookkeeping. I hate doing it, and I'm not good at it, and I don't do it correctly. So I hire, you hire that out to your CPA / bookkeeper type of service, right?
No, I agree. And I think it's better to hire someone for something like that, where it's your business's numbers, rather than do it yourself and, waste the time. You don't like doing it to begin with and possibly make mistakes.
Oh yeah. I mean, the mistake making is really because you have to be familiar with like the bookkeeping process, what's involved, but also have at least mild awareness of the accounting side. Like, I would like the benefit of having those things done, and I can understand what they are. But like, the first time you mess up reconciling the month in QuickBooks is you get all crazy. Everything goes crazy after that if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah, then it's hard to kind of pinpoint where you made the mistake and kind of track back. So it's better off to have it done right the first time than take the extra time that you could have paid someone to fix it over time.
Oh, for sure.
So what's one thing that you may have struggled with and found as a weakness that you turned in harness and now use it as a strength?
So one weakness is that I have is I would say that I'm incredibly ADHD. And so there are certain tasks in my life and in my business that I really struggle with, right? Those are the kinds of tasks that I have, no business doing, but at the same time, it's what allows me to, get all into this like tools and software and all these processes and stuff. So like when I'm able to focus on something specifically that I'm really interested in or passionate about, I can go deep forever. But if I have to be distracted by these little things, like something as arbitrary as taking out the trash, it disrupts my ability to stay focused. And so it is a massive weakness for me. And the way that I manage that is either by finding and doing the things that I'm super focused at, or creating a process in which I can automate it, whether that means delegating it or it's like a computer script that does it, using a service like Zapier, if you're familiar. That's how I'm able to function as an adult, at least.
Yeah, it's hard. In 2019, there's so many distractions, and a lot of the time when you try to focus on one thing and you kind of interrupt that, you lose your train of thought, or you forget, or you don't go back to the right place. I think it's important to have that kind of focus in business and personal life.
Oh yeah. It's super easy to get off the rails because like you're going about working, you're like 20, 30, 45 minutes in, you got to go take out the trash, right? Well, then you come back and you check your phone. It's like, oh yeah, Facebook. And then they're in Facebook for 10 minutes. And then you're like, oh shit, I have to work. And so that's the kind of workflow that really messes me up.
Yep. When I'm remote, I'll have to run and throw the laundry in, take the dogs out, take the trash out, do the dish, like all these random things that stop your day and you lose your track of thought.
Yeah. It makes, like when I made first made the transition to work from home, that was something I had to get acclimated to, because when you're not home during the day, when you're at work or at a job or at your office or whatever you have, it's really easy to forget all the stuff that can happen during a business day. You get deliveries, you got phone calls, dogs, like you said, it's immensely distracting. So it took some adjustment for sure.
Yeah, and I think if someone hasn't been remote or kind of a freelance scenario where they're offsite, they have to have a specific mindset to either work from home, be a digital nomad, or something where they're free from an office setting. Because if you don't focus, it's really hard to get work done. So I don't think it's not for everyone. Obviously, that freedom, everybody wants it, but it's hard, like you said, to adjust for some people.
Well, it can get lonely too. Like that's the other part. Because like when you have to go to a place every day, like a job, or if you have your own office and you have coworkers or employees, it's kind of nice because you get up, you get ready to go to work, you present yourself well, ideally, to at least to a certain extent. When you're at home, like there's days you don't even need to get dressed. You know what I mean? You wake up, you stay in your PJs all day because you can just work right from you just wake up, go get a cup of coffee, go to your computer. It becomes one of those things. I mean, I've taken it to the extreme now. I recently, as of May 24th, I moved into an RV full time.
Nice.
And so I'm actually on the road. I pulled over to do the podcast. Luckily, there's good internet here because the most disruptive thing in this situation isn't necessarily the close proximity of my family. It's the fact that the internet is good or bad. And so luckily I feel like I got good internet right now.
No, it's good. And funny thing is, me and my wife have been thinking about basically selling our house and just getting an RV or something like that, because several things happen where it's like our priorities change or we become different people, and some of these, material things that keep us stationary aren't as important anymore. So it's really cool that you're doing that.
Well, to me, it's like, why did I have a house? It's so I could store my shit. And it's like, you keep buying more shit. Oh, I need to get another house, a bigger house, or I need to get a storage unit. And it just becomes all this stuff. And I mean, realistically, all I use is my computer, and like occasionally I'll watch TV. And so I'd rather enjoy. The other thing is I'm from Arizona, and right now it's like 113 degrees. And here in the southern part of Tennessee, it's 78. And so I can work. I don't even have to turn on the air conditioning.
Yeah, you can follow your ideal season. So if you want some winter, you go north, you go down south if you want to get a little warmer. So that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah. And the other thing I'm realizing is how inexpensive real estate is in some of these other states that I'm not as familiar with. I can see, okay, I'm in this neighborhood. I can see what it looks like and what, how everything is. These houses are super nice. And, it's only $110,000 to buy a house as opposed to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely a shock in terms of real estate markets and what you can get for your money around the country. So anyone that works remotely or obviously doesn't have to go to a office or tied to a location, some of those may look favorable.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially if you live in an area where maybe the industry in the area that supports the people that live there, your money isn't dependent on where you live. So you could live anywhere. And ideally that place is beautiful and inexpensive.
Yep. I mean, that's at least for me, that's a goal and heading in that direction. So what's one thing you can leave with the audience in terms of advice, professional or personal?
I would say, it goes hand in hand with kind of the stuff that I deal with every single day. And that is to systematize early and often, breaking down, documenting what it is that you do on a daily basis in your life and in your business, because this is the next step of that is being able to, offload that through either automation, through technology, delegation, etc. And I see it over and over and over again. A lot of small business owners get caught up in the day-to-day and they just kind of know things. And then when they hire people, they kind of train them based on what they know, but it's not like a true. Like if you got a job at like Papa John's Pizza right now, there's a training manual for every single position and every single thing that can happen in that store. I'm not saying you have to go to that degree for your business, but if you're going to hire somebody, you should have a very clear description of what it is they're going to be doing for their own sanity, but also so that you can properly value it. It also makes it easier if you have to swap people out. That you have a document and a training process that you can say, okay, this is how we answer the phone. We brand the call, we introduce ourselves, we ask how we can help them. And then we close the call by thanking them for their time or whatever you know what I mean? Depending on the type of business it is. And it's a mistake that I made early. I took it for granted. Oh, I just know this shit. And that's probably going to be systematized early and often.
I agree. It's the only way to scale and I think level up as as a human being in general to kind of recognize patterns and build habits and what those patterns are in those habits that make you grow in terms of professional and personal.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Yeah, the best way, I appreciate that, Roman. The best way for people to find me is to just go to getautomated.co. You'll be able to find how to get in touch with me directly if you want to reach out. I'm also on Facebook, facebook.com/Kelsey Bratcher. And those are probably the two best ways to reach out and learn more about kind of the stuff that I do every day.
That's awesome. Thank you again for stopping by.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
This podcast has been brought to you by Nova Zora Digital. Find out how Nova Zora Digital can help your company grow online. Learn more at novazoradigital.com. Until next time, all you digital savages.